What happens if you balance all of your karma, but you're still alive? If you're curious, keep watching. The first thing we should probably talk about is karma. What is karma? Karma, basically, my husband's analogy was like you're going to school and you're learning a particular subject. Now, my husband is more of the scientific type, so I think he used physics as the topic. Never been there, haven't done that.
I'm laughing because I don't know if it's physics, but yeah, go ahead.
Anyway, the point is, in order to get to the higher levels of physics where you're actually applying it, you've got to go through the basics. And if you're starting and you go through lesson 1, you do great, then you get to lesson 2, and all of a sudden, you fail it. Well, in order to move on to number 3, you've got to go through lesson 2 again. That's kind of like karma. They're life lessons. So life lesson is karma. And as you are going through each one of your lives, if you don't learn the lesson, you go back again. Do you have anything you'd like to add to that, hon?
Me adding? No.
Right, in case sometimes you say, you should clarify this.
No, I respond that way just to give you a hard time, to see if you can make it through. Well, I'm glad that you modified what you said, because initially you said, if you fail, when you gave the analogy of the class.
Mm-hmm.
And because of mass media, the internet, and
right.
all these other people out there talking about karma, people get the impression that it's a bad thing. You know, that it's either you fail or you pass. And that's not how it works, right?
Right.
It's a lesson, and you'll either learn from the lesson or you won't. And if you don't learn from it, then you'll keep going and doing it again until you learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to applaud you on that one. Yay.
Well, thank you.
That was good.
All right.
So many people as soon as they hear karma, they get scared.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and yes, there are things that you've done in your life that were not so great, but the only reason why they weren't great is because you didn't learn your lesson.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So if you focus on, okay, I'm here to learn from the actions that I take, decisions that I make, then hopefully that gets you to relax a little bit. Because that's the way it should be. You know? Just enjoy life. Stop worrying about whether or not you created karma, which a lot of people seem to do.
Right.
So, where was this headed as far as you talking about karma?
Well, understanding it first before we can talk about, okay, so what happens if you've balanced all of your karma and you're still alive in a physical body?
Ah, good point. Now, by the way, this is our second take. The first one, we actually finished the recording, and then we realized that the microphone somehow didn't pick up the voices properly.
It would have been more like a silent movie.
Okay. So, during that take, we debated about or discussed whether or not this had to do with, have you balanced all of your karma for all lifetimes, or is it just the karma for the one lifetime?
Right.
That you currently are living.
Mm-hmm.
What did we decide to do?
Well, I gave an example of balancing karma in your current lifetime to the point where, for my dad, he all of a sudden was in the hospital having heart problems. And then my husband relayed a message to me that I was supposed to go and talk to my dad and let him know that he went through what he was supposed to in this life, and it's up to him if he wants to continue. I said, okay, I'd never heard of that before. So I went and I told my dad, and he lived for several more years. So to me, yes, you can go ahead and balance what you came here to do in this life, whatever that may be, and continue to live. It's your choice. That's your free will.
So using your logic,
Yes, my logic.
you're saying that once you were given a message about your dad has accomplished what he's supposed to in the lifetime that he just left, that meant in your mind he had balanced all of his karma he was supposed to in this lifetime.
I don't know about balancing all of it, but he accomplished what he was supposed to for this lifetime. I don't know what karma he had to
But you
balance.
talked about balancing karma.
Yes, so
how
using my logic,
logic.
yes, he balanced what he was supposed to in this life in order to be able to go ahead and choose if he wanted to continue living or cross over. So
Okay.
yes, that's my logic.
And in a way it's logical, right? Because you're thinking life lessons,
Mm-hmm.
you have a purpose. If you've accomplished your purpose, then you're pretty much done.
Right.
Which that question, by the way, who asked that question? We didn't give credit to.
One of our paradigm shift participants named Chitan.
Right. So we want to give Chetan credit for this question. He gave us the okay to answer this question in a video format to send out to the public. So thank you, Chetan, for that. So if you think about it logically, what you're saying to me makes sense. We could literally say that your dad balanced the karma for that lifetime. We don't know if it's for his entire life, right?
Right.
But from the message that you received,
For the current life.
correct, we know or we think that it's balanced for the current life. Now then you said, so you went from, so I told him that he had this option, and so he lived so many more years. Is there like a little piece missing there somewhere?
Like what?
Like
Like when
maybe-
you told me to shut up?
Okay, that's one point. So why do you think he told you that?
Because he doesn't believe in that.
Right? Number one. But then did he also have to make the decision to live longer?
He did.
Well, you didn't say that.
Oh, well, he decided to continue living. And he did for several more years.
Then didn't it happen again when he was in the hospital and then you talked to him again about that? If I remember right? That's
Yes,
what's been shown to me right now.
Yes, he ended up going back into the hospital a second time, like a couple of years later. And I was sent to give him the same message, that it's up to him. He could go now. And Archangel Michael was there to escort him, or he could continue living. And he did continue.
He chose to.
He chose to stay.
Okay. So twice he chose to stay a little longer.
Yes.
And then finally he just said, okay, that's it, I'm done. I'm moving on. Okay. So the question was, or is, what happens once you balance your karma and you're still alive? To answer that question, I would say that individuals have this notion that your karma is tied to how long you live. So, of course, you have to have died once your karma is balanced, because why else would you stay here? I think is the way people think. What do you think?
I agree with that. I agree with that, because Earth is known as this place where people go to balance their karma.
Or learn their lesson.
Learn their lessons, yes.
What it is. So based on that question, my assumption is that Cheetah might be thinking, well, I balanced my karma, so why am I still alive? I think that your example would have answered that question. Because even though you make these decisions before you embody, you have free will. You decide what's going to happen in your life while you're embodied. You know, God is not this God that the churches paint for us, like he's going to flood the earth and do all that. That's not, and that God, you know, he gets mad and
Punishes.
right. God doesn't do that. You know, those things, those stories came up, or those interpretations came up because they want to scare us, right? So we can live the way they want us to live. Talking about the churches, the church leaders.
Right.
So you embody, you go through your lessons, and you've done a great job, which I don't know how many people do a really great job where they cover everything they're supposed to in that lifetime. Now what? Well, if you have lessons to learn, there are normally challenges, right?
Right.
We're going to focus on just one lifetime. So what happens if you have no more life lessons to learn, what do you think would happen?
I think that you would probably have the option to continue living or decide to leave.
So what happens if you decide to stay? Because, as in, you want to stay longer, you want to live longer.
Uh-huh.
What do you think that life would be like?
Well, since you've already gone through all of your challenges, I would think that, if any challenges do arise, they're minor. It's not like major life lesson challenges. That maybe life would be easier, and if not easier, a lot simpler. But then the question that I have is, well, couldn't you also say, well, hey, I'm still living in this body. I'd like to continue living. Can I take on another lesson?
I'm waiting to see if I get it. No, because you'd have to be prepared for it.
Oh, I see.
All right? That's, remember, when you get up there, you're shown, or you decide what you want to do, but then you're actually trained and you're prepared before you handle whatever that is. So that's not something, I don't think that they would readily say, oh, go ahead. You've balanced everything, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be cautious about that. Because what if you choose something, first of all, how would they do that to you? How would they do that with you? How would they show you again everything, and then you decide what you're going to work on?
Right, that's right, because you have to go through different lifetimes to see what happened.
See, you're in your physical body, which is a very limiting vessel, right?
Right.
So that's why, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine something that's correct, right? They don't let that happen.
Well, thanks,
at all.
Archangel Michael.
But you can enjoy your life because now you won't have pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
The struggles that people normally have physically, you won't have any of those. So you will really just enjoy life until you decide, okay, I'm ready to just go.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go. Now that's just one lifetime. Does that
Right.
mean you're an ascended master?
No.
No.
Because that's one lifetime.
You could still have a whole bunch more life lessons to learn, but whatever life lessons you chose to learn in this current lifetime, you already handled those.
Okay.
So then you pass on, you go back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now you choose new lessons.
Okay.
So you can re-embody.
All right, so let's speed up and fast forward. You have one more lesson to learn. You re-embody. You complete that lesson. Now what? You've
Okay,
done
so-
all your lessons.
Exactly. And so now you graduate.
Yay!
We talked about the physics class, right? So now you graduate.
Mhm.
You move on to the next level. If you were in middle school, now you're going to go on to high school, right? If you're in high school, you now go on to
College.
college. Now, you might decide you want to go to a 2-year college first before you go on to a regular college. And then, or you might decide you want to go to a university instead of a college. What's the difference? Well, a college normally stops like at master's, right? While a university normally offers PhD.
Oh, I
So
didn't know that.
you can see the different levels as you go along. Normally, some colleges will offer PhDs, but a university has more colleges. A university, nothing but a whole bunch of colleges.
Oh,
And so like you have the College of, like Northwestern, you have the College of Business, the College of
Medicine.
College of this.
oh, is that why they do that?
That's correct.
I had no
Right.
idea.
Right.
I didn't know that.
So you have all these different levels in heaven as well.
Okay.
Okay?
So I've learned all my life lessons. I don't have to come back physically then?
Not if you don't want to, because
Okay.
you've already, your karma is balanced.
So what if I'm still alive when I've balanced all of it? What happens to me then?
Then you decide what you're going to do. You
Huh.
know, ascended masters like Saint Germain,
Now, I remember
Mhm.
Saint Germain, right?
and I always choose Saint Germain first because there's so much you can find about Saint Germain still in this
Right.
physical plane.
A lot of documented information over
Exactly.
in France.
You
Mhm.
know, even on the internet.
Right.
Because people have taken the documents and made copies of his life. So to me, he's a great one. And for those of you that are not familiar with Saint Germain, in the Catholic Church, he's known as Saint Joseph, who was the father of Jesus in that lifetime that Jesus was born as Jesus.
Mhm.
But there's so many documents and stories of him where he was friends with people, right? They met him, and he was maybe around 30 years old. Then they met him 50 years later, and they're like 80. all gray hair and everything, walking cane, and he still looks 30.
Uh-huh.
Like, how is this possible?
Right.
Well, once your karma is balanced, you don't age because you're no longer affected by the physical things like emotions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing moves you. You don't get upset. You don't judge. You know, they don't exist anymore because you are living or you are existing in a spiritual plane, even though you're on earth. Mother Kuan Yin is the same thing. She walked the earth as a bodhisattva for many, many, many years. I know Saint Germain, they say he was here for at least 100 years.
Over 100.
Just helping different countries, helping people.
Right.
Before he ascended completely, right? So you can choose to stay here in a physical body because people have to see you, but literally you're not physical. You know, you're a spiritual being. So
Okay.
you can't even create karma because you're not a physical being. You're a spiritual being, just occupying. You're an ascended being occupying a physical body.
Okay. So
Or then you ascend.
that's what I was
and
about
from
to
there,
ask.
You ascend, and you can ascend different ways. Right? Muhammad, the great prophet Muhammad, he ascended whole body. His followers watched him ascend, his entire physical body. But he was already an ascended master. He already balanced out his karma.
Okay.
You know? They saw Jesus ascend,
Mm-hmm.
but he died. So that's not the same thing. He died first. Prophet Muhammad didn't die.
Uh-huh.
He just ascended alive, right?
Okay.
And then we have, is it Joshua? All right, one, I think, whomever it is, the one that ascended in the chariots of fire. He was,
don't
if you want to be
remember.
like Hollywood, you know, and really show off.
Dramatic.
Yes. You get a
Show your
chariot
dramatic flair.
with horses and set it on fire and then get in there and then you ascend alive as well. We're going to have a lot of ascended masters that passed on as a regular passing on, like Jesus did. You know?
Mm-hmm.
He got killed, buried, dead. So many of the ascended masters, I mean, it's happened both ways.
Okay.
And so it's not like one is more popular than the other one. It's happened both ways.
Okay. Well, I think that answers the question.
Well, the next thing is, so you become an ascended master, now what? So you get up to heaven, then what? Well, then you choose, first of all, you're given the option to choose a name. That's why Saint Germain is called Saint Germain. Why is he not called Joseph when we know him as Joseph in the Catholic Church? Because when he got there, or when you become a ascended master, you know, you've lived many lives. So the question then is, how should we refer to you? Now
What
remember,
should we
in the,
call you?
in the spiritual realm, that you don't need a name because you identify each individual by their frequency.
Okay.
But it's more for us on earth, so we can be able to identify the ascended master, right? That's what the name is given, really. They don't need it. It's not like they're up there in heaven and say, well, hey, Katama Buddha, how you doing today? You know, like neighbors with Jesus. Hey, Jesus, well, how's it over there in Mexico? That's not how it goes, right?
Okay.
It's just like, they don't need a name, but it's more to help us. So then you get up there, they ask you, what name do you want associated with you, with your energy? So these regular human beings will at least know who you are, you know, and they can refer to you. And they choose their names based on, and this was told them by Jesus, based on what they feel was their biggest accomplishment, the lifetime that they had the biggest accomplishment in. You know, so El Moya, for example, he chose that name because of the big temple thing that he
Taj
built.
Mahal.
Taj Mahal, right. He built that and he was the leader there at the time. Jesus, obviously, right? It's a pretty big one there.
Mm-hmm.
And then Saint Germain in France, that's where he was most influential. So he chose Germain, right? Saint Germain,
Okay.
instead of Joseph. As I guess he didn't see it as a big deal, just being father for
The father of
Jesus.
Jesus.
Yeah, like, anybody can do that. So that's how the name is chosen. And then depending on the level that you happen to be, right? Because depending on your spiritual development, then you're assigned certain things, certain
Okay.
duties. You know, like you have archangels, you have the ascended masters with blue ray, ascended masters of this, ascended masters of that, and then from there, you know, it's a hierarchy, believe it or not. People might not think about it that way, you know, but each, like Saint Germain handles what? The violet flame. He's responsible for the violet flame, and the violet flame represents freedom, which he released to the United States, country of freedom. That's why the United States broke away from England. See, there's a whole history there, but Saint Germain was behind that movement. So all the Ascended Masters are always behind movements of freedom, of love. And you ascend, you become an Ascended Master, you'll see where you fit in, within that hierarchy. And then you start helping us down here.
Great.
Teach us what to do so we can ascend one day.
All right. Well, if you have any questions or want more clarification, please let us know. Remember to subscribe and like this video. Join the Facebook group 190 Vision to connect with others on the same journey. Get help by visiting our website 190vision.com. Support the 190 Vision mission by clicking on the Donate button, which is at the bottom of each page of our website.